That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan and Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan and Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 18th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. A beautiful day on the way. High 59. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 43. And then on Wednesday, even nicer. Sunshine, high 62 if you are walking out the door with us right now. 35 and clear in New City up in Rockland County. 31 and clear in Frenchtown over in New Jersey. And it's 36 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Butch and Sonny are finally on their way back home. Israel marches back into Gaza. A Brooklyn cat catches bird flu. Should all cat lovers be worried? Why did so many politicians skip the St. Patrick's Day parade? And a former member of the mob is now a New Jersey lawmaker. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams heading back to Earth after that unexpectedly long and eventful space mission. They went, of course, last in June. It was supposed to be an 8-day stay. It ended up being 9 months after the rocket could not make it back home. So Wilmore and Williams, now at 1 o'clock this morning, they departed in a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule called Freedom. Early this morning, 1 a.m., they left the International Space Station. The undocking was exactly 1:05. They were about 261 miles above the Earth off the coast of Guam at the time. The astronauts, all smiles, of course, as they now are making their way back home.
Butch and Sonny are one step closer to coming home.
Great to see our friends arrive. So thank you so much.
An epic space saga for 2 astronauts about to celebrate the end of their very long mission.
So NASA says their splashdown off the Florida coast expected just before 6 p.m. today. They, of course, arrived for what was supposed to be an 8-day test flight of that Boeing Starliner spacecraft back in June, but then they realized that Boeing Starliner was not going to get them back safely, so they ditched that plan. NASA essentially has left them there ever since. SpaceX capsule, that arrived, of course, over the weekend. It brought 4 fresh new astronauts to replace the 4 that are leaving. So you have Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams and 2 other astronauts that have not been there as long, who are all coming home.
SpaceX Crew 10, welcome aboard the SS.
Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams were at the hatch as it opened with the new crew made up of a Japanese astronaut, a Russian cosmonaut, and 2 NASA astronauts.
They looked thrilled to see those astronauts also because they knew it was their ride home. Williams said being aboard the International Space Station has given her an amazing perspective, even though it's been 9 months long.
I don't want to lose that spark of inspiration and that perspective when I leave, so I'm going to have to bottle it somehow.
Yeah, I think she just wants to get damn home. That's my guess. The Israeli military conducting extensive strikes against Hamas overnight in the Gaza Strip. The Steve Witkoff apparently knew, and the White House knew about these attacks that were going to take place. The Israelis are saying that this follows Hamas's repeated refusal to release hostages, as well as its rejection of all proposals it's received from that envoy, Steve Witkoff. And so they say everything fell apart. The IDF, they say, is attacking targets of the Hamas terror organization throughout the Gaza Strip. They have hit a couple people. Al Jazeera reporting that Muhammad Abu Watfa, who is a deputy minister in the Hamas-run ministry, he is among the top terrorists that have been killed today by the Israelis. Sada el-Balad, an Egyptian television station, reported that another chief member of Hamas's political bureau also killed by Israeli airstrikes today. Meanwhile, the IDF Home Front Command has instructed municipalities near the border, the Israeli side, with Gaza to halt schools and move away until further notice. This all part of this ceasefire that has fallen apart.
Israeli warplanes have carried out new airstrikes in the Gaza Strip. Ministry of Health officials have told ABC News that over 130 people were killed in the widespread attacks, with over 300 more injured. A statement from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the latest military action is a response to Hamas' repeated refusal to release hostages and rejecting peace offers made by the mediators. This early morning airstrike follows a ceasefire of nearly 2 months, during which dozens of Israeli hostages have been exchanged for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. I'm Mark Nephew.
Let's bring it back home. One person stabbed, rushed to the hospital in critical condition after some sort of fight took place. Parking lot at New Milford High School in New Jersey yesterday afternoon. Police responded about 3:15 in the afternoon to this large fight that broke out in the school parking lot. What the New Milford superintendent of schools is saying is that the fight involved some New Milford High School students and some, they describe them as juveniles that are not affiliated to the school. When officers arrived on the scene yesterday, they found a victim who had been stabbed. He was taken to a nearby hospital, is in critical but stable condition. And what we just got word a short time ago is that New Milford High School will be open today. They say they'll resume their regular schedule this morning. Police continue to investigate that incident. What would you think if the Statue of Liberty was returned to France? Of course, it was a gift from France all those years ago. Well, the White House responding to this French lawmaker yesterday. His name is Raphael Glucksmann. He's a member of France's parliament, and he said that it's time for the Americans to give back the Statue of Liberty. And he's mostly has to do connected to the Trump administration. He's not a Trump fan. He says he's upset about the firings of scientific researchers here, all part of that Doge shakedown of what's going on in Washington where they're getting rid of workers. And so this French lawmaker says America's not what it once was, so they should return the Statue of Liberty. So the White House responding to this yesterday.
My advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now.
Ouch. WABC News Time 5:09. This could be a big day for people that believe there's a conspiracy around the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. President Trump says files related to the assassination of the former president going to be released today. About 80,000 pages in all.
I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes, of course, so everybody will be curious to see if there's anything in this paperwork. 80,000 pages. The president says Americans have been asking for this, well, for a long time.
So people have been waiting for decades for this.
Yes, so of course Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas back in 1963. President Trump says he can't wait to release these documents. Don't know if we have an hour or when it's going to come out, but it's sometime later today. The last person to be seen with that missing American student on spring break, Sudeshka Konaki, is back on the beach in the Dominican Republic. Now, they have not found her yet. Correspondent Jesse Kurz is in the Dominican Republic and reports from Punta Cana.
This time, 22-year-old Joshua Reby of Iowa was with Dominican Republic investigators who are still searching for the University of Pittsburgh junior more than 11 days after she disappeared.
Now, Rebe's passport is reported to have been confiscated by authorities. His lawyer says he's not free to leave his hotel unaccompanied. Police say Rebe is being considered a witness to a possible drowning, which is the original theory we heard, is that the two of them were on the beach and some large wave took her in.
His attorneys allege his passport has been confiscated. He is permanently escorted by the police anywhere he goes, and he is not free to leave. The U.S. State Department and Dominican authorities have not confirmed if Ribi is officially being kept in the country. While they were still in knee-deep water, he says, I asked if she was okay. I didn't hear her answer because I started vomiting all the seawater I'd swallowed. After vomiting, I looked around and didn't see anyone. I thought she'd grabbed her things and left.
Yeah, it seems like there's probably a whole lot more to this story. 5:11, the White House says a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia is as close to being done as it's ever been. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says talks are on what she calls the 10th yard line of peace.
We've never been closer to a peace deal than we are in this moment. And the president, as you know, is determined to get one done.
This is President Trump is set to hold a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin later today.
It only started because of the incompetence and the weakness of the previous administration. And President Trump is very proud of the progress that he and his team have made in such a short amount of time. And hopefully tomorrow that progress will move forward. The president and his entire national security team have been engaged directly with President Zelensky and the Ukrainian team. And that has been part of the discussion between the president's team and the Ukrainians. As for where those lines will be drawn or any specifics, I am not going to get into that from this podium.
Yes, everybody's trying to figure out what has Russia been promised to come to the negotiation table. Same goes for Ukraine. Correspondent Richard Engel has more.
When you listen to President Trump and his latest comments and Vladimir Putin, it seems that they already know how these negotiations are going to play out. President Trump said that in his conversation with President Putin, he wants to talk about dividing assets here in Ukraine.
And Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One yesterday that a lot of work was done over the weekend, and that's why he thinks there's a very good chance they could nail this thing down.
He talked about land and power plants, certainly much more than just 30 days to stop fighting and then to have the conversations. And Ukrainian officials are very worried that tomorrow Presidents Putin and Trump will talk on the phone and decide the future of this country.
President Zelensky, of course, already accepting a U.S.-backed 30-day ceasefire proposal. He did so last week. Meanwhile, the U.S. carrying out new airstrikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen again yesterday. Correspondent Matt Bradley reports that the Iran-backed group has been attacking shipping in the Red Sea since January, and this is a pushback against all that.
It was just last week that the Houthis said, after the Israelis cut off aid into the Gaza Strip, that they said they were going to be renewing their attacks against international shipping. That's what sparked this response from the Trump administration.
And Houthi rebels say those U.S. airstrikes that began over the weekend have claimed 53 lives.
They said just today that about 53 people have been killed. Now, as these attacks by the U.S. continue, those numbers are expected to go up. Nearly 100 people have been injured, and the Houthis say that women and children are among the dead. This could, once again, threaten international shipping through that vital waterway that leads to the Suez Canal. Now, we don't know how this is going to be resolved or who is going to back down. But again, this could actually affect pocketbooks of Americans.
WABC News Time 514, the White House saying President Trump is using his authority within the bounds of the law to carry out all these deportations we've been hearing about. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says Trump is not defying any sort of court
orders. The president is using every lever of his executive authority and his constitutional authority within the bounds of the immigration laws of our country to ensure that our streets are safer for law-abiding American citizens.
Trump administration has carried out deportations under the centuries-old Alien Enemies Act. A federal judge has preemptively barred the removal of some migrants under the act for at least 14 days.
They are putting their lives on the line to deport these designated terrorists from our country, and they should be trusted to do that. And that's exactly what the American people elected this president to do.
And the Venezuelan government has agreed to resume accepting deportation flights from the U.S., marking another win for the president.
The Trump administration has successfully gotten some of those countries that were not very friendly taking back their folks.
Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar here.
Sending folks back on ICE Air, what I call ICE Air, has certainly helped. I'm glad that the administration has opened up those doors so we can send people back to those countries as soon as possible, especially the criminals.
And the congressman says that shipping people home sends the message to those countries that there are consequences for crossing the border illegally. And he says down in his district in Texas, they're seeing fewer people crossing the border than they have in decades. 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Good morning, Noam. We'll start here in the NBA at the Garden. Mikal Bridges scored 28 points. Josh Hart tied a franchise record with his 8th triple-double this season, and the Knicks beat the visiting Miami Heat 116-95. Karl Anthony Towns had 23 points for the Knicks, who fell behind 12-0. Then completely turned around the game after Towns scored 15 straight in the second quarter. New York won the season series 3-0 for its first sweep of Miami since the 92-93 season. They led by 6 midway through the third when the game was delayed for the court to be cleaned after actor and comedian Tracy Morgan vomited while sitting courtside. Yeah. Did you see this?
He has a video of it.
Was it disgusting?
Yeah. I mean, who wants to see somebody throw up?
Was he okay?
I don't know what the scoop is with him. I have no idea.
Oh, my God. Maybe he had a little... Is he a big drinker, Tracy Morgan?
I don't think so. He was in that, accident
that
he almost died in.
Right.
Yeah.
But was it that alcohol-related? I don't think it was.
No. The truck ran into him.
Well, anyway, slow it down there, Trace, man.
Funny thing is, all of a sudden, he got funny.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, write that down. Coming up next for the Knicks. They are the current 3 seed in the East, by the way. They'll visit the Spurs in San Antonio come tomorrow night. As for the Brooklyn Nets, they're back at it tonight in Boston, getting set for a 7:30 p.m. tip-off against the Celtics. And you have your first 4-round get going today in the NCAA tournament. Those are play-in games. Tonight, 6:40 p.m. for the 16-seeded St. Francis versus Alabama State. And at 9:10 p.m., you got the battle for the 11 seed. It's North Carolina versus San Diego State. To the NHL quickly in the ice in Columbus. Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt scored 39 seconds apart in the second, and the Devils beat the Blue Jackets 2-1. Up next for them, they'll host Calgary on Thursday to open up a 3-game homestand. On the ice tonight, the Rangers will welcome in those very Calgary Flames for a 7 p.m. puck drop, while the Islanders simultaneously get underway in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. And it is that time already, Noam All-Laden. Time for regular season baseball, not on American soil, but out in Tokyo. The MLB World Tour Tokyo Series gets underway tonight, the first official regular season baseball game. It'll be the Dodgers and the Cubs, and it'll be Yamamoto versus Imanaga. How about that for your opening game of the Tokyo
makes
Series?
Makes sense that you're doing it in Japan. Yeah.
Right, that's what I said. Might as well keep things on theme here, And Ohtani's not ready to go yet, so you got to go.
Too bad we don't have Sterling for this one. Then, huh?
Yeah.
The 3-2-2 from Yamamoto. It's crazy, right?
We got a pitcher's.
Where are we?
A good old-fashioned pitcher's duel, Susan.
They're tossing bombs up there, so never mind.
That's your sports. No.
I'm going to hell. See you later.
You are, yeah.
Justin,
one-way ticket,
early
by
on
the way.
a Tuesday morning. Lou Rufino punching his ticket. That's your sports gnome. I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
The 77 WABC Big Basketball Bracket Challenge is back. The bracket has been set. It's time to make your picks. Go to WABCRadio.com/bracket right now to fill out your bracket. Pick your winners. First place wins round of golf for 2 at Crystal Springs Resort. You heard me. It's the 77 WABC Big Basketball Bracket Challenge. Go to WABCRadio.com/bracket right now.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 521. Elon Musk says magic money computers are giving away taxpayer funds in the billions. The tech billionaire says the Department of Government Efficiency has uncovered 80% waste and 20% fraud.
We saw a lot of payments going out of Treasury that had no payment code and no explanation for the payment.
Musk says there are billions being paid to nonprofits that clearly have a political agenda. He also claims there are government contracts still being paid out to the private sector that were actually canceled years ago.
You're not supposed to get it, but the government sent it to you, and nobody from the government asked for it back. It's like 80% waste, 20% fraud.
Yeah. Conor McGregor, he was at the White House yesterday celebrating St. Patrick's Day with President Trump.
There are rural towns in Ireland that have been overrun in one swoop, that have become a minority in one swoop.
UFC star taking aim at the Irish government. He blamed illegal immigration for Ireland potentially losing its Irishness. He also praised President Trump and his work ethic, saying he considers Ireland and the U.S. to be what he called siblings.
What is going on in Ireland is a travesty. Our government is the government of zero action with zero accountability.
Meanwhile, Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin says the controversial fighter's remarks do not reflect the spirit of St. Patrick's Day or the views of the people of Ireland. Martin met with President Trump last week at the White House. Down in Texas, Republicans who previously voted to criminalize abortions are now going after the abortion pill. The medications are being mailed to Texas mothers by activist groups who are trying to skirt that law.
It's estimated about 19,000 abortion pills are being mailed into Texas every year.
That's Ashley Leonards with the Texas Right to Life, says this can be dangerous. The mothers are not being checked by a doctor to make sure those pills are safe.
The mother's not being checked for ectopic pregnancy or even guaranteeing that the abortion-inducing drugs remove all pregnancy materials that could cause infection.
And she says those activists who are so upset about the rules in Texas are not checking to see how far along those moms are in their pregnancy before they send out the pills.
And it's more and more dangerous. The further you are into your pregnancy, the more likely you are to have complications.
Yeah, and a bill filed in Austin, Texas targets what the bill authors call the abortion industry's underground operations. It would allow private citizens to sue organizations that mail those drugs. WABC News Time 524, an appeals court is denying President Trump's attempt to refire federal workers who were reinstated.
A judge had ordered the White House to reinstate fired probationary employees at 6 federal agencies, and this decision will support that ruling despite the Trump administration's request to freeze it. The White House fired thousands of workers in their probationary period, which typically lasts for the first year or two of their roles. I'm Brian Shook.
This was supposed to be a big day for Senate Minority Leader, New York Senator Chuck Schumer. He has his new book out about anti-Semitism, was going to take it on tour with stops here in New York City today. He was going to be in Washington and Baltimore, but he's canceled it because there's been a ton of backlash within the Jewish community against the senator and within his own party for some recent decisions.
It comes after the New York lawmaker voted to advance a House Republican-led funding package. A spokesperson for his tour said it would be rescheduled over security concerns. Schumer was scheduled to visit Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City to promote his new book, Anti-Semitism in America, A Warning. I'm Lisa Taylor.
I know there was supposed to be a big protest today at Temple Emmanuel here in the city, and maybe another reason why he canceled that tour with Jewish activists who are upset that he hasn't stood up, they say, enough for Israel or the Jewish community in North America. Let's go back down to Texas, where this measles outbreak in West Texas continues to grow. And it's led to a spike in Google searches that ask if vitamin A helps with measles. Now, doctors have been getting a lot of questions about the supplement as well.
While vitamin A has shown some mortality and morbidity benefits in malnourished children, its role in healthy children is not clear.
And that's Dr. Michael Chang, who is a pediatric infectious disease specialist with the University of Texas Health System. The focus on vitamin A is due to comments from Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He said that it's being used to treat patients in Texas where the outbreak has grown to nearly 300 cases now.
The benefit of vitamin A for measles in normal children is not known, and it does not prevent measles. Only the vaccine does that.
Yeah, so Dr. Chang is saying that he's telling his patients that vitamin A is nowhere near a substitute for the vaccine, and he's begging those who are unvaccinated to get it.
Vitamin A in high doses actually can lead to serious toxicity, including increased pressure around the brain, vision problems, seizures, skin, and liver problems.
WABC News Time 526. Keeping teeth healthy doesn't require fancy gadgets, just the basics.
That includes brushing your teeth twice a day and flossing. The Health Policy Institute says it's also important to get regular dental checkups and cleanings. Twice a year is what's recommended. The American Dental Association says fluoride matters because it has the power to fight cavities and tooth decay. They recommend fluoride toothpaste and using a toothbrush with soft rather than hard bristles to avoid scraping off tooth enamel or damaging your gums. I'm Brian Shook.
Radio 77, WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 18th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. Beautiful day on the way. High 59. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 43. Even warmer for Wednesday. Sunshine, high 62. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 35 and clear in New City up in Rockland County. It's 31 and clear in Frenchtown over in New Jersey. And it's 36 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour at LaGuardia Airport, getting an update on the wing of a Delta plane that struck the runway as it was coming into land at LaGuardia on Sunday night. We had gotten word about this yesterday, and then they gave us some of the air traffic control audio. The plane's left wing, we don't know why, struck the runway while landing. There were sparks seen everywhere. I mean, the good news is nobody was hurt, but here's what it sounded like between the air traffic controllers and the pilots of the plane.
Somebody saw some sparks from one of your wings. You guys feel anything?
We did, but we'll check it.
Yeah, so they did feel something. The flight operated by Endeavor, which is the same regional carrier as the incident in Toronto. Remember that plane that crashed, caught fire, flipped over during the landing? So this was on a flight from Jacksonville to LaGuardia. 76 people on board, 2 pilots, but nobody hurt. So that's the good news. Now the FAA will have to investigate. WABC News Time 5:39. We are now seeing some more information about that stepmother up in Waterbury, Connecticut, who allegedly held her son from 4th grade until he was 31, locked in his room in his Connecticut home, almost starving him to death. Only got out when firefighters arrived at the home after he set his room on fire. So he was rescued 2 weeks ago, and they've released the body cam and the 911 calls from that fire. So we get to hear a little bit of what Kimberly Sullivan, the alleged woman, stepmother, she's not the alleged stepmother, but the allegedly held her stepson in his room for all those years. Here's what the 911 call sounded like.
Please hurry, it's 2 Blake Street, there's a fire. My son, stepson is in his room, and I don't know, he did something with the TV.
Did he get injured? Is he on fire?
Yes, he's injured. Please, send the ambulance.
Now, when officers arrived at that home, Sullivan was outside. She was holding her dog, and she said her stepson was still inside.
Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
Help him out.
Listen,
That's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
come down the road. Come on.
That's when firefighters made that discovery. They found him 5'9". We don't know his name, the victim, just 68 pounds. They took him out of the home into the hospital, and of course knew something was wrong. Police say that man used hand sanitizer and a lighter to set the fire as a way to draw first responders and escape being locked in his room for 2 decades. He was found starving, again, weighing just 68 pounds. Here's more of the body cam where the stepmom seems to be a little more concerned about her dogs than the stepson who's in the house.
My dog.
I know, come on.
I'm coming.
And the biological mother of this man, I guess he was adopted, speaking out about the fact that he was being held captive. She's 52 years old, wants to remain anonymous, talking to NBC News yesterday in Connecticut, saying she had been looking for her son for decades and then got a call last week from her sister that her son had been finally found, and then was distraught to hear that he's the same individual who had been locked in his room all this time.
She could rot in hell. My sister actually called me while I was at work, and she had stated that we found them.
So that biological mom says her and her daughter, who is the half-sister, I guess, of the victim, had used every tool they could think of to try to find him over the years.
I just can't fathom it. How can anybody treat somebody like that?
I've been looking for him for over a decade. I wanted to wait until he was 18. I am almost 35 now, and there was nothing. No social media, no court records, no ancestry information, nothing.
So the victim's biological mother said she had given up custody when he was a child, but that didn't stop her from attempting to be in his life. And she said that she had been in contact with the stepmother.
She needs to actually spend the rest of her life in solitary confinement and fed 2 cups of water a day.
Yeah, probably a lot of people would agree with you there. Kimberly Sullivan's attorneys maintain her innocence, laying the blame on her late husband for how his son was raised. But this biological mom says she hopes someday she'll get to meet her son.
That we all love him. I love him, and
I love him.
He is so strong, and I'm so proud of him for doing what he needed to do. I wish he did it sooner.
WABC News Time 543. Let's come back into the city where the Columbia University student who fled the country over the weekend after immigration and customs enforcement agents came to her door. She actually went to Canada over the weekend. She basically self-deported, and probably because she saw what happened to Mahmoud Khalil. She didn't want to sit in a jail cell. Now, she was given an interview to CBS this morning. They're going to run the whole interview today, but they did release a couple clips of this yesterday. This woman's name is Ranjani Srivasan, and she says that she's not the person that the White House is describing, that she doesn't advocate for violence or terrorism.
That I would be detained indefinitely. That was really my greatest fear. And with little legal recourse to fight anything that they throw at me.
So Srivasan, she's 37 years old, doctoral student at Columbia, says days earlier she learned the student visa that she had was revoked and that immigration agents were going to visit her, or they did, without a warrant. So she said, okay, you know what? I saw what happened to Mahmoud Khalil. He's in a jail cell in Louisiana as he waits to find out if he's deported. I don't want that. So she got on a plane over the weekend and went to Canada. But again, she stands by the fact that she says she didn't do anything wrong. She said, yes, I took part in the anti-Israel protests on Columbia's campus last year, but she said, I don't advocate for violence.
I have done nothing wrong, and I was unsure why they were sort of persecuting me.
This all comes as President Trump is threatening to pull all federal funding from Columbia University unless certain conditions are met. Columbia has a deadline of tomorrow to respond to a letter the Trump administration sent last week that outlines multiple steps the school needs to take, including a mask ban on campus, reforming admissions practices, and adopting a definition of anti-Semitism at Columbia. 5:45 now. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here in the NBA at the Garden. Mikal Bridges scored 28 points. Josh Hart tied a franchise record with his 8th triple-double this season. And the Knicks beat the visiting Miami Heat 116-95. Karl Anthony Towns had 23 for the Knicks, who fell behind 12-0, then completely turned around the game after Towns scored 15 straight in the second quarter. New York won the season series 3-0 for its first sweep of Miami since the 92-93 season. They led by 6 midway through the third quarter when the game was delayed for the court to be cleaned after actor and comedian Tracy Morgan vomited while sitting courtside. I hope he's okay. The Knicks outscored the Heat 24-6 after the delay to lead 88-64 heading into the fourth. Coming up next for them, the current 3 seed in the East. They'll visit the Spurs in San Antonio come tomorrow night. As for the Brooklyn Nets, they're back at it tonight in Boston, getting set for a 7:30 p.m. tip-off against the Celtics. And your first dose of first 4 action, the play-in games for the NCAA tournament. They're set for tonight, 6:40 p.m. The battle for the 16 seed. It'll be St. Francis and Alabama State right before a battle for the 11 seed at 9:10, North Carolina versus San Diego State. To the NHL here in the ice in Columbus, Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt scored 39 seconds apart in the second period, and the Devils beat the Blue Jackets 2-1. They maintain their firm grip on third place in the Metropolitan Division. Up next for them, they'll host Calgary on Thursday to open up a 3-game homestand. On the ice tonight, the Rangers will welcome in those very Calgary Flames for a 7 p.m. puck drop, while the Islanders simultaneously get underway in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. And today is the day that we get meaningful baseball underway. The regular season officially kicking off in Tokyo with the MLB World Tour Tokyo Series. You get the Dodgers, then the Chicago Cubs opening up a short 2-game set. They'll play in Tokyo tonight and tomorrow night, 6:10 p.m. or 6:10 a.m. Jeez, man, 6:10 a.m. first pitch today for the Dodgers and the Cubs out in Tokyo. And staying on theme there, it'll be Yamamoto versus Imanaga in the Tokyo Series opener. For you, no, Layden.
I can't wait.
That's all coming up.
Did you see how many people showed up to see the Dodgers when they arrived in Tokyo?
A lot, probably.
Yeah, like 1 million people showed up.
Well, I mean, you're going to see at these stadiums, they're going to have, big, huge, advertising signs with Shohei Ohtani's face slapped on them. I mean, I remember during the World Baseball Classic a couple years ago, he was hitting big home runs into his own face.
They said the last time they saw crowds this large was when the Beatles came to Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it's got to be on the same level. Shohei Ohtani, you got a couple of other big Japanese names on this Dodgers squad, and of course Imanaga for the Cubs starting tonight, or this morning. Jeez, I keep getting that wrong. But I mean, it'll be exciting. I remember when they did this last year, and it was a big hit. So that's your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. Senator Schumer abruptly postponing a tour to promote his new book about anti-Semitism. He was supposed to be tonight, I think it was, Temple Emmanuel here in Midtown Manhattan, but word got back to him there was going to be large protests outside that synagogue. Probably a number of groups, not just New York City Jews who are upset with Schumer for his stance on Israel and maybe his defense of Jews across the country, but then you had the people who are part of the left in the Democratic Party who say that Senator Schumer caved to President Trump when it came to that latest funding bill where the government would have been shut down on Friday. Here were some of those Democrats.
We need to have a conversation inside the caucus about whether we are willing to stand up to Republicans. Listen, we have options. We could decide to not proceed to legislation as an ordinary course of business.
So the senator was supposed to have this book tour. It was going to be in D.C., New York City, Baltimore, other cities, but again, called off. Obviously didn't want these angry crowds of left-wing Democrats and New York City Jews, which is a pretty lethal combo.
I think we've been somewhat soft on the approach. We need to throw the punch. We need to throw a punch in this fight, and we have not done that.
Yeah, so the only promotion you'll hear for Senator Schumer for his book on anti-Semitism will be interviews that he's given, which has been a number of them to the press. So these new rules are going to go in effect next month to help city officials crack down on those ghost cars, which have fake or obscured license plates to avoid paying for tolls, especially like the congestion pricing one. But these are people who don't want to pay any toll, the bridge crossings, that kind of thing. So the new city rules will apply now not just to cars that they pull over, because if you're pulled over and you have one of these obscured license plates, you actually could face jail time. But now what they'll do is even with parked cars, if see them parked cars with these obscured license plates or with rust or somehow where a plate is distorted in some sort of strange way, you'll get smacked with a $50 fine. Police will continue to be at some of the crossings and other places where the transponders are set to smack you with that toll, looking for cars who are trying to beat it with these license plates that are covered up.
A lot of people that are involved in violence and crime and patterns and robbery patterns and shootings, their vehicles aren't traceable, meaning that they're using these methods to conceal their identity, kind of like a mask, but a mask for a plate.
So just last week, police impounded 66 cars, arrested 25 people during license plate enforcement operations on the RFK, 3rd Avenue, and Willis Avenue bridges. And they say those operations will continue even as they start this new campaign to hand out tickets to parked cars that have license plates that are covered up. Meanwhile, New York's congestion pricing battle, pitching President Trump against Governor Hochul, far from over. The U.S. Transportation Department has ordered the governor to turn off those tolling of cameras by Friday. But Hochul says she made it clear to the president when they met at the White House last Friday that she's not going to do it. The president has vowed to eliminate congestion pricing on day one of taking office. Friday will be the day 57 of the administration. He says he wants these tolls to go away. But Hochul says she told the president that the federal DOT doesn't have the jurisdiction to end what's already been approved. So she says those cameras will stay on. It'll be awfully interesting to see what happens come Friday. Over in New Jersey, Congressman Josh Gottheimer taking action in response to federal cuts to two food support programs. The programs fund schools and food banks to buy from local farmers and ranchers to help low-income families. And funds have been cut to this program.
With the tremendous benefit that science tells us that eating meals, breakfast and lunch, makes for our kids, we should do everything we can, shouldn't we, to help them out, to ensure that no child is hungry in New Jersey or around the country.
Gottheimer sending a letter to the new Secretary of Agriculture urging him to reverse the cuts. Congressman also introducing new legislation that would provide free meals to all school children who qualified for reduced meals, and legislation that expands the poverty threshold for free school lunch.
What the Trump administration is doing is a trifecta of bad policy. It's going to harm local farmers, harm students' health, and increase child hunger.
That's Joel Berg with Hunger Free America. He says tens of thousands of children in New Jersey are slated to lose federally subsidized free school meals because of those program cuts. Back here in the city, the New York City Department of Health has confirmed those 2 cases of cats with the avian flu in New York City. We heard about this on Friday, but now we know who one of the cats is and who it's owned by. One of those cats has been identified as Valentino, who lives with a veterinarian in an office in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Valentino they had to put Valentino to sleep after they realized that it was sick. Now, they didn't know right away that the cat had avian flu.
He was hiding, and that was very atypical for us. We had to search the hospital for him. And we brought him out, and he had 106 fever and was just very, don't touch me. He just didn't feel good.
Yeah, so days later, she says things took a turn for the worse. His condition became so bad that they had to euthanize him. But after he died, he tested positive for the avian flu, and she wonders if he got it from eating Savage food products. The brand has been recalled for possible contamination of avian flu.
He was only 13 months old. Yeah. Had 9 lives in those 13 months. He was a memorable character. He was involved in, everything.
Yeah, so she says, just be careful.
Pet food companies, in all honesty, should take the extra step, and they should, especially right now, if they've got poultry, they should be pre-screening every single lot to make sure there's no bird flu.
Yeah, vets across the tri-state say they've been inundated since these cats came down with avian flu, with people who are cat lovers bringing them cats in to make sure that their cats are okay. And there's a new member of the Englishtown, New Jersey Borough Council, and he's got a unique resume. John Elite is a former member of the Gambino crime family. He's 62 years old. He worked for John Gotti, Peter Gotti, John Gotti Jr. He served 14 years in prison after getting caught up in this wide-reaching mob bust for extortion, murder, and drugs. He eventually testified, by the way, against the Gottis. I've met him a couple times because he wrote a book about this called The Darkest Hours. But now he is an Englishtown Borough Council member. And he says, life goes in strange ways.
I don't blame him for saying it. I would say the same thing, to be honest. People are going to judge you. There's no way I can erase the first part. I wish I could, but you can't.
Yeah, so he says, look, I've reformed myself, and he knows not everybody's going to believe that. But he says he spent time talking to kids so they don't go the wrong way like he did when he was younger.
So they bring me in to talk to kids because I lived it. I know what they're going through as an inner city kid. And I try to push him in the right direction.
And so he says now he got involved in politics because he's, just like a regular homeowner who's watched taxes go up, things get more expensive in New Jersey, and so he's going to serve on the Englishtown Borough Council.
I hate to say this. I think 70% of them are corrupt. I think they're
he's talking about the members of Congress here.
I hate to say this. I think 70% of them are corrupt. I think their agenda, they're still committing crimes. I stopped committing them a while ago.
So Elite was appointed to the council after 2 seats just recently opened up.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a Real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a Real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your Real ID at tsa.gov/Real ID. That's tsa.gov/Real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.